So, still in Crisp, the editor of the book Griffin on Human Rights. I'm now in, this is a video on Chapter 5, Rowan Cruft's article, Human Rights, Human Agency, and Respect, Extending Griffin's Views. So in this paper, we have, again, a similar approach that, yeah, Griffin says some great stuff, but it's insufficient. We need to broaden it. And what we're going to broaden, says Cruft, what needs to be broadened, is the notion of normative agency and respect. So he wants to keep Griffin's, a central idea that human rights are protectors of normative agency. Human rights respect normative agency. But okay, what do we mean by respect and what do we mean by normative agency? And it's not that Griffin is wrong, it's just that Griffin gives us insufficient, right? We've seen other critics of Griffin, go after him by saying, you've got presuppositions that you don't articulate, yet you use them, but it's not clear really what they are, et cetera, et cetera. You've maybe privileged certain things in your theory that hasn't given, way to equal status or something like that. Here we're saying, yeah, you're right about normative agency, but we need a broader notion of normative agency and a broader notion of respect. And not surprisingly, it's broader really means more concrete. We got to see what people have actually looked at. And rather than sort of this tendency, as the great philosopher Whitehead used to say, philosophers tend to be too abstract. And they miss out on by abstraction, which means you will prioritize certain aspects and ignore others, and you make choices when you perform abstractions, and you can get things wrong and be revisionist, right? Even about history or experience. And what Cruft is saying is that we need to go back to our experience, and we need to go back to a little bit more to history and everyday notions and flesh them out a little bit to keep central insight but broaden it. Okay, so let's have a look at this notion of respect, right? With respect, Griffin thinks it's just like, respecting your normative agency means I respect it kind of in a negative way. I don't damage it. Right? I don't, interfere with it or damage it. Well, yeah, okay, but that gives rise to that standard, problem that, philosophy teachers have been talking about for a long time, that if you have this highly abstract sort of negative view, this constraint sort of view, whatever you want to call it, but this negative view in that I respect your normative agency by not interfering with it, there are things that I could do that we would intuitively say are disrespectful, and those disrespectful things still don't actually interfere with your normative agency. And so what's that? Well, for instance, this old story of the peeping Tom. You can unpack this in a variety of ways, but the peeping Tom that looks but doesn't actually do anything, right? Doesn't take a picture of someone in some compromising thing or whatever, and then sell it on the internet and damage someone's reputation, no, or profit or whatever. But someone who just, the peeping Tom in this case, okay, this is according to the example, commits an unnoticed by the victim violation of privacy, just, kind of looks and then disappears and doesn't take pictures, doesn't do anything, but nonetheless violates a person's privacy. That's not in question. It is a violation of privacy, but because the victim did not know about it at all, the victim's the normative agency of the victim was not affected because it happened, and you didn't know. If it happened to you, you didn't know about it, right? But we still think there's something amiss here, right? We wouldn't say, like, we would look at a peeping Tom who said, you know what, I do my peeping, but I don't do anything about it or whatever. I don't make money or I don't damage all the peeping victims. They don't know about it. You would still say, come on, you're not respecting people by doing that. So in that sense, we are bringing in an everyday notion of respect, which is much more than damaging. Certainly if somebody damage someone's normative agency, we would say it's disrespecting it. But even if you don't damage it, you can still disrespect it in this peeping Tom example. And the everyday notion of respect says, no, 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 you still disrespected the normative agency. So we have to broaden this Griffin's notion of respect into a much more fleshed out version that more closer to what we use every day. So yes, human rights protect normative agency, but we and respect them, but we need a broader notion of protect and respect. And also, we need to broaden our notion of normative agency too, says Buchanan. Now, one thing you want to be always careful of is when a critic, in this case Buchanan, and our principal author Griffin, is the categorization of our principal author by our critic accurate? So is Cruft's analysis of what Griffin is saying about respect and normative agency correct? So you always want to keep that in mind. But I'm just going to keep going with the video, but always keep that at the back of your mind is the critic's representation of the principal author accurate, because sometimes they get things wrong. And remember, Griffin will answer all these criticisms, and he does say that some of my critics just misunderstand. All right, that's just a little aside. Back to Buchanan's Cruft's, back to Cruft's work. So broaden this notion. It's not just simple needs, that Griffin is talking about, like that an agent may need to be a normative agent, like food, shelter, physical health. But there are more complex cognitive needs. And we're not just talking about, if you're a normative agency, cognitive, you will have to have a certain kind of cognitive capacity, like as Griffin might say, well, to conceptualize a good and conceptualize ways of following it and pursuing it, thinking about it, changing it as new data comes into your experience, modifying your good and all that. You need a conceptual cognitive capacity to do that, to be a moral agent or a normative agent. Yes, that nobody's arguing that, of course. To be a normative agent, you have to be able to produce these norms or whatever. Okay, you might want to say that as to be a normative agent, maybe not an agent in general, but a normative agent. Yeah, okay, maybe you have to have that cognitive capacity. But there's something else that a normative agent needs on the cognitive side, which goes beyond capacity, hence going beyond, right? This abstract version of respect, going beyond the abstract version of normative agency. What does that mean in this? What are we going beyond? What's this beyond this extra? Well, to be a normative agent, it's not just a capacity. You actually need certain beliefs, right? To be really a normative agent, you need to be able to believe certain things. And in this sense, what Cruft is saying is that to be a real normative agent, you need to believe that other people, other agents around you are not absolutely malicious, right? You can't really be a normative agent if you're, in other words, if you're absolutely paranoid, or as we might say, if someone's not really functioning as a normative agent, if let's say everyone around them has been deliberately making them feel destabilized and whatever, and so they don't even have cognitive belief, that they don't even have beliefs that people around them are going to be kind or at least not malicious. So there's actual content to the beliefs that an agent must have to be a normative agent, and so this is not something that's really derived from experience, right? This is something that must be there in order for someone to be a true normative agent, right? In that sense, to experience the world, in a sense, as a normative agent, you have to come to it with the beliefs that the world is, not completely composed of absolutely hostile people to you. And you can flip this, maybe to sort of put a different approach of this, is somebody really functioning as a normative agent if they're absolutely paranoid of everybody around them, right? Is that really experiencing the world as a normative agent? I mean, I think your normative agency would be heavily damaged. You wouldn't be experiencing the world as a normative agent if you were just completely paranoid about things. I think that's what Cruft is trying to get at here. And so the notion of a normative agent has to be beyond just an agent that has simple needs like the physical and all that stuff, beyond a capacity, but actually has to have certain kinds of beliefs. And then, so Cruft, again, there's more going on in the article, but I think that's the gist of it. And Cruft concludes by saying that we must use this broader notion of respect in our, quote, respect for human rights and what they can do. And we can fully understand all this by thinking more deeply, more deeply. And he comes up with actually a very interesting philosophical point. It's an old one, but it's always something interesting. It goes back to Kant. Actually, Kant worried a lot about this as well. What it is to make reason govern our will. What exactly? What kinds of beliefs does a normative agent have to really have in order to be a normative agent in the first place? Okay, so that brings me to the end of chapter 5, Cruft's interesting article on human rights, human agency, and respect. And remember, it's a critique, but he's trying to extend and build on Griffin's view. See you next video.